Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDRs, but hey, it's something. Now, I know that if this video pops off, I know that a majority of you are probably going to not even read or even listen to the fucking news stories, and you're instead just gonna skip to the main topic. Don't blame it, have at it, I guess. But if you're new and you're still here, let me explain the brief way this show is formatted. First, I go over some of the news stories, either around the world, domestically, etc., give commentary about that, then go to the main topic. And with that out of the way, let's get right into the news. First, a story coming from Ireland. UFC legend Conor McGregor running for president of Ireland. UFC fighter Conor McGregor solidified his bid for Ireland's presidency on Thursday with a promise to preserve his native country by tackling migration days after meeting with President Trump at the White House. McGregor has decided to campaign as a leader in opposition to the European Migration Pact, which would create a streamlined approach to border security and immigration to speed up the asylum process for EU members. And Conor McGregor has actually been making a lot of rounds with this most recent electoral thing, even going so far as to say that the far-left government of Ireland should really reconsider their support for the bill. Now, if you know anything about Irish politics, you know that the government of Ireland is not far left. In fact, they are currently governed by their center-right parties. There are actually some people who even misinterpreted that as well, because they're like, wait, isn't Ireland pretty left-wing? It's well, I mean, Ireland is probably to the left of a lot of other European countries. I'm not sure of where on the spectrum they would be, but I would say that they're at least somewhat close to the Nordic model countries. I mean, of course, it's slightly complicated because Ireland is rather one of their big they're Irish politics is kind of revolving around two things. One, extreme devout Catholicism, and two, anti-Anglicanism. I mean, they don't like England. They love Catholicism. They love Catholicism. And one of the other things, I mean, it's kind of related to one of the things, but one of their biggest things, they're a lot of their identity revolves around far left socialist militant groups, the IRA or the IRA or the IRA. In case you don't know, they're multiple different IRAs, each with various radicalism in regards to socialist politics. But on the other end, they're also extremely religious, so sometimes there's a little bit of a contrast in certain things. On a lot of economic policy, they're rather left-wing. Then when it comes to social policy, they're a bit more, even their left-wing party, Sinn Féin, didn't until recently support abortion, so that kind of gives you an idea. And that's why people can even slightly take Conor McGregor seriously as a candidate, because he's running on the more social elements of Irish politics. I think Ireland had some referendums that were pretty socially conservative, and though they overwhelmingly, despite the fact that the parties themselves didn't support it, a lot of the Irish people are just with their religiosity, I would assume, probably just more traditional in that sense. Be that as it may, Conor McGregor is not really running as an Irish he's running essentially an Americanized campaign. That's what he's doing. He is kind of like Eduardo Verastegui in Mexico. Clearly they're American conservatives that are just trying to push for American conservatism in other countries. And that doesn't work, because even in other countries, their policies just don't work. As I mentioned before, Ireland is currently governed by their conservative parties. And not to get to something that's slightly related to the main topic already, but their conservative leader, the conservative prime minister of Ireland, called for a ceasefire in the Israel-Gaza war, the Palestinian genocide, denouncing the fact that 40,000 people are dead, and supported the recognition of a Palestinian state. Meanwhile, Conor McGregor is one of those people that's you need to condemn Hamas. That was more of a Scottish accent than an Irish accent. And I know that the certain Irish person who's in the audience is going to be a bit mad at that, but he will also mention, I also shout him out in that sense that he explained to me how this is just dead on arrival. Because Conor McGregor is just again, he's Americanized. He's an Americanized person. He's an American figure. He's popular in America. That's why American conservatives are yes, Conor McGregor, yes. No Irish person is cheering for Conor McGregor. Not even to mention the point that in the political procedure for the Irish presidential election, you need to, 1, be a citizen of Ireland, okay? You need to be at least 35 years old, and you have to be nominated by tons of Irish politicians. Conor's not getting those nominations. Like, there's really no chance that he's going to get those nominations. Because, Europe, they have a parliamentary system in that country. You have to get nominated by people who are already in power. Like, this is clearly just a vanity bid to probably, escape his, rape charges that he's, facing. He's, literally, been charged multiple times of rape. That could be one of the reasons why he's doing this. Or it could just be he's probably just doing this to spread, his, fucking fascist political message. A lot of, world leaders, a lot of world governments are basically just trying to do the Trump strategy, which is why Trumpism is, terrible. Regardless, currently I am anybody but McGregor in this race. I would ideally want a fucking Sinn Féin to win, but any left-winger who is good is fine. Next story, to transition from foreign to domestic, we're going to talk about the U.S.'s immigration policy, because shock about shocks, I'm being proven right once more. The EPU is proven right again award. I keep winning it. So, the U.S. is set to revoke the legal status of more than 500,000 migrants and is urging them to self-deport themselves. The Trump administration is going to be revoking tons of statuses, tons of the legal statuses of immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela who flew to the United States under a Biden administration program known as the CHNV, a plan that was specifically made to reduce illegal immigration, and 532,000 migrants entered the U.S. under this policy. And Trump got in and said, we're not going to do that anymore. He stopped the policy, even as people were still trying to come into the country. And now Trump is just saying, yeah, all of you guys, we're revoking your status. You are now illegal immigrants. Bye-bye. Go away now. This is literally just showing blatant Republican hypocrisy, but Republicans don't give a shit because they're all fucking brain-dead idiots. You guys claim you want illegal immigration, you want to prioritize legal immigration over illegal immigration, and yet Joe Biden literally put a thing in place that makes the immigration process easier so that people are prioritized to come here legally as opposed to illegally. And now you're literally saying we're going to get rid of that, and somehow you think it's going to make the number of illegal immigrants go down. I do not understand why conservatives are so stupid. They are so stupid. They literally think that the immigration process being extremely expensive, extremely long, and extremely hard is a good thing, and then will cry and piss themselves about illegal immigration. Yeah, illegal immigration numbers are that because you don't have a good, actual, legal way for them to come here. You think these guys want to risk their lives and spend every day of their lives wondering if they're going to get deported and sent back to their nations? Sent back to possibly deadly scenarios? You really think they want that? You think they want to literally be forced to have their entire they literally have to force themselves to be basically indentured servants to people? You really think they want to do that? No. Why would they? This system was put in place by rich business owners specifically so they could exploit illegal immigration labor, literally. They can pay you as little as they can, because if you dare to say, hey, I should be paid more, they're going to go, la migra, get them! And this also shows another element of hypocrisy, because conservatives also cry and piss themselves about Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela are evil, gross nations, socialistic despot nations, communist, blah, blah, blah. They can't do that anymore. I'm sorry, they can't. If any of you fucking conservative brain-dead idiots even remotely try to badmouth Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, I will say to you, point blank, if you think it's so bad, why are you sending people back there? If you think that these nations are so bad and so terrible, then why are you sending them back? You can't fearmonger about Mexico being run by the drug cartels and then in the same breath go, oh yeah, by the way, this woman with her baby, we're just going to send them to the drug cartels, bye-bye. I'm sure nothing bad will happen to them. You can't do that. You can't do that. You cannot do that. Either these nations are so terrible that these people are running in droves and need to come to the greatest country in the world, America, or these nations are not as bad as you're saying they are, and maybe you're hyping it up because it suits your propagandistic interests. You can't have it both ways, but conservatives will have it both ways because they don't understand the concept of, like, anything. They barely understand the concept of, like, oxygen. They barely understand the concept of opposable thumbs. They barely understand the concept of, like existing. They're barely sentient things. In fact, I think they have, like, lower IQs than fucking, like, animals. Anyways, next story. And it's going to be an interesting one because it's a Texas bill that is targeting anime and video games with underage... Okay, let me explain. So, Texas universally passed a bill called Senate Bill 20. It was unanimously approved by the state senators, which proposes criminal penalties for anyone possessing or distributing visual material that depicts fictional minors in obscene ways. There are laws that are already in place for real ones, but this would expand it to be including fictional ones. Now, there's a couple of things about this bill that you need to understand. The first thing is the thing that we all know. We all know what this bill is supposed to be targeting. We all know what this bill is specifically... Like, nobody's saying it, the bill doesn't say it, but we all know what this bill is specifically targeting. Come on. We're not stupid, guys. Vaush's goblin short stacks are not going to be allowed in Texas no more. We all know what the bill is supposed to be targeting. There's just one slight problem. The bill isn't explicitly targeting that. The bill says that any depiction of people in obscene ways is bad. But then this article goes on to state, well, then what does that mean? What does that mean? The word obscene is defined as content that lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value when considered in its entirety. But, like, again, what does that mean? That is super fucking vague. Like, a Republican could see that and then go, hey, you drew a picture of Luz and Amity from the Owl House kissing each other. That's obscene. You should go to jail for that. There are a lot of, like, shows, movies, and stuff that depict underage characters, like Degrassi. Degrassi is a show about high school life, and it details a lot of things about high school life. If you know, you know. Not just that, but also, so does Degrassi get banned? Like, if you own Degrassi, are you in trouble because it depicts that? Does an anime that has, like, a character who's, like, 15 stabbing another character, is that, like, obscene? That's obscene. A 15-year-old just stabbed someone. They're not supposed to do that. Again, the word obscene is so vague. A lot of people, like, this article says, like, a lot of anime could possibly have problems. Now, there's a very simple solution. Just rewrite the bill to be very explicit about what you're trying to ban. Like, just be upfront. Just say you're trying to ban loli. Just say that. Or just say the word, like, don't say obscene. Say, like, sexual. Say, like, explicitly, like, it's, like, sexual content. Like, just ban that. Just say you want to ban that. And I don't think you're going to see any objections. Like, yeah, just ban it. Just ban it. Like, I mean, I know the unfortunate truth of the matter is that, as of now, there's, like, a huge legal gray area in that regard. It's like, is that, like, as bad? Is that not as bad? I don't know. Like, I mean, that's really up to people's, like, own moral definitions on whether or not they do that. And that's why not every single, like, fucking, like, defender of that type of content has the same defense. Some of them say it's just a drawing. Some of them say, oh, actually, this character's, like, 15 million years old. Whereas some people use it as a stepping stone to pursue other things. And it's only when people go to the latter that gets them into legal trouble. It's high time that there is some sort of, like, actual legal thing about the matter. No more gray area. I don't want this law to turn into a moral gray area about, like, anime in general. I want there to be, like, a specific law that just says, like, hey, this material is banned. Lolicon is banned. Shotacon is banned. Like, just good, done. Just done. No more. No more legal gray hairs. No more legal loopholes. Just, like, explicitly in black and white, pen to paper, explicitly, this is this. Unfortunately, the government would rather use pen to paper to talk about things like dismantling the Department of Education, as Trump is doing. Now, technically, he has not abolish the Department of Education, but he has signed an executive order that basically tells the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, essentially stop doing your job. And since he didn't technically abolish it, technically he doesn't have to go to Congress for approval. And basically, we all know what's going to happen. Like, people are going to generally get more stupid, and people are also going to generally get worse. Like, just generally things are going to get worse for people. Especially in red states. Red states, people are going to get fucking stupid. And of course, the reason why they're doing this is because stupid people are easier to control. Stupid people are easier to manipulate. Stupid people are stupid. He not only wants to manipulate you afterwards, he also wants to go one step further and just fucking decide, you know what, I'm going to make it so that even the small amounts of education that you do get, you can't even do anything about it. Now, granted, people were already really stupid in regards to the education system because the education system is already pretty decentralized. Like, the government doesn't, like, mandate, like, what the curriculum around the world, like, around the country should be. But it's just, like, now the gloves are off and people are just going to fucking, like, get worse. Speaking of things getting worse, there's a second news story that I'm just gonna put it in this category. Just say, like, Donald Trump is making things worse. And it basically is how the Social Security Administration is now going to require in-person identity checks for new and existing recipients. Like, everybody who wants to get a Social Security check now has to go in person in order to limit fraudulent claims, allegedly. You can now no longer do things over the phone. You now have to go in person every time you want to get a Social Security check. Kind of weird thing to do with the thing that's literally supposed to provide for, like, old dying people. Like, it's kind of a weird thing to do. But the real reason why he's doing it is not to prevent fraud. He's doing it in order to make Social Security worse for people, which is going to make people, like get angry about Social Security. And then people will, instead of looking at Trump, who is literally doing this specifically to make it worse, make Social Security worse, they're instead going to blame the institution itself, and then, magically, Trump is going to use that to say, hey, why don't we even have this institution anyways? Because people have this strange thing where, for some reason, if the institution isn't working as well as it should, their solution is somehow cut funding from it, make things worse for everyone else. From first-hand experience, I have people who will say things like, Social Security, we're not going to see that, and now it's like, yeah, because the guy you voted for is cutting it. But they're somehow convinced that Kamala Harris was doing worse for Social Security than Trump was. Another person will say something along the lines of, man, the retirement age grew from Obama to Biden. Huh. Very conspicuously, you missed that there was something in between those two guys. Interesting. Could that perhaps have anything to do with the fact that the retirement age has grown? Like, I don't even know if that's an actual, like, true fact, but I just point out that logically. Hey, you said in between Obama and Biden, the retirement age grew. There's something in between those two. Interesting. They'll complain about the education being underfunded, and then somehow say, due to that fact, we should cut funding to education. The VA is so underfunded. Let's cut the VA. Let's stop the VA from existing. It's like, what? What are you talking about? People are just really stupid in that regard, and, well, not much we can do about that. I tried to stop this with Kamala, but no, people didn't listen to me. EPU being proven right again. Alright, so next story is actually something funny. Okay, so remember how Sheila Jackson Lee, she, like, stopped running for her seat, and then, you know, after she lost in another election, she went back to her seat, and then there was a guy running for that seat named Isaiah Martin? Well, Isaiah Martin is back, like, and he's actually getting into a lot of trouble, because during that whole drama, when he was running for Sheila Jackson Lee's seat initially, and then he suspended his bid, he apparently got into a lot of trouble with a group called Grassroots Analytics, who are mad at him because while he's announcing another congressional bid, while he's running another congressional bid for this seat, they basically said, yeah, we're suing you because you didn't pay us for the, like, all the debt that we, like, spent on your campaign. They had apparently agreed to pay Grassroots Analytics 9% of the total funds that he raised for his campaign, with them apparently spending $200,000 to him, and he's like owed like at least 200, and like he owes them a lot of money for the campaign that he just didn't pay them. because I guess in his logic, he's like, I didn't go to the seat. I didn't like actually continue the campaign, so I guess I didn't have to. But then it's like, no, you still have to pay it off. And literally, a lot of people have been showing that a lot of the money that he spent is just fucking like ludicrous. So apparently, 0.9% of the money that was given to him was spent on his phone bill. $12,544 were spent on Ubers. $18,841 were spent on his hotel visits. And it's just funny. It's just hilarious. This dude is never going to be in Congress. It's hilarious. If he actually makes it, that'll be a bit of an upset win, but it's like, he's just not making it because he's like so fucking like, you have to wait until you're actually an actual politician to do this. But, you know, I guess you don't want to. All right, and the last news story is actually somewhat of a semblance of good news. Bernie Sanders is, like, if you don't remember, Bernie Sanders has been doing a little bit of a campaign tour. Not necessarily a campaign tour, but he's been doing it's called like the Fight Against the Oligarchy tour. And he's been, you know, holding events around a lot of different areas. Colorado, Arizona, Iowa, that kind of stuff. And he's been turning out a lot of people. According to this, his most recent event in Denver has gotten 30,000 people. And, you know, a lot of people have been trying to say a lot of things about this. One of the big ones being how a lot of people immediately interpreted this as Bernie Sanders running in the next election? When Bernie has made it abundantly clear he has no intentions of running for president ever again. He is going to be an 80-something-year-old man. It's basically an open secret that his most recent Senate bid is his last run, period. Another thing a lot of people have been trying to say is, Bernie Sanders appoint successor when? And there's actually a bit of an address about that, because he's been turning out these rallies with AOC, so a lot of people are interpreting it as, you know, she is the one that he's signaling to run in the next election. Even though, again, this bid is a lot more obviously focused on like actually trying to combat like and rally support for like an actual progressive message that isn't really associated with like partisan politics in a sense. And another reason why that is the case is because Bernie Sanders has also stated a couple of things at the rallies, and a couple of things have been going on about the rallies that a lot of people are actually taking notice of. One of the bigger ones is the fact that like there isn't like a partisan like interest. Like it's not like a partisan thing. Like a lot of people, like there's literally been people who like have been reporting on it, and I've asked these people, and it turns out a lot of these people who are turning out to these rallies, they didn't even back Bernie either time. A lot of people just kind of naturally assume like, oh, these are just people who like supported Bernie, but it's like, no, a lot of these people didn't support Bernie, and they're still turning out to a Bernie event. So clearly it's showing that he has a bit more of a reach than people realize. And another thing that he stated is that he's even went so far as during this tour to openly just say, hey, progressives, here's an idea that you guys should probably do. Maybe don't run as Democrats. He even held an interview with a certain someone who is a little bit relevant to the main topic, and he basically just point blank said, like, hey, yeah, I think that it's in the best interest in some areas. You just have to run as independents or run as like a, like run, like he says, like run as a progressive Democrat if you want, run as a progressive, you know, independent if you want, and cites a person that's been cited for like 50 fucking million like times at this point, Dan Osborne. He said like he ran a formidable bid, not associated with any political party, and ran as a proud trade unionist. And when that person tried to like basically try to like egg him to be like, hey, there might be, is there like, and Bernie's like, no, I don't think that there's really going to be a chance for a viable third party like in the near future. It's like, look, he knows this fact. There's a chance that he could potentially be building up like a third party or like a building up like an independent route for president, but come on, like he's not building it now. I don't think he is. Like, I mean, he might be like, I don't really know. Like, again, basically it seems like all he's doing, like, I mean, the truth of the matter is we could say like, oh, he's trying to build a third party. He's trying to boost AOC's chances in 2028. He's trying to do this. He's trying to do this. He's trying to do that. It's like, look, here's what Bernie is doing. He's rallying the American people to show up to fight against the rising oligarchy of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. That's what Bernie is doing. You don't have to read into it any deeper than that. Just accept it for what it is. And with that out of the way, let's finally get into the main topic of this video. Is this show back? I keep bringing it back even though I say I don't want it back. But Hopefully it's not back, and hopefully this is the last time I make this series. But I personally figure that I could possibly add possible ideas and possible, like, words that could potentially be useful in this context. You know, like, I canceled the whole Thoughts on series previously because I was just like, I don't want it to be like I don't really want it to be like a drama thing. I don't want it to be like just like boring and BS. I want it to actually be somewhat substantive. Like with my JJ Thoughts on video, it was substantive because I brought up the fact that he is a fucking liar and nobody should trust him. And with this one, I think I could have some substance about it as well. I mean, the script I have that has like helpful notes that probably help me to articulate my points better than how I'm articulating them right now is like 8 pages long, so you tell me. But first, I need to cater to the people who probably don't know who I'm talking about. Ethan and Hila Klein, also known as H3H3 or Hihi, are American-Israeli YouTubers and podcasters, producing videos since 2013, originally on the H3H3 channel, but soon shifted to making their podcasts almost exclusively. We'll get back to that in a bit, but first let's go into some background on their content initially. Also, side note, I'm going to be talking a lot more about Ethan than Hila, because for a lot of things, like, there are a couple of reasons why I'm talking about Ethan more than Hila. One, because Ethan gets a little mad when you try to bring Hila into this a lot. But also because Ethan is kind of seen as more of the public face of the channel. For basically the entire history of the channel, Ethan was kind of the more actual face of the channel. A lot of the early videos especially, Ethan is like the main focus and Hila's the one holding the camera. Because Ethan has a lot less shame. But don't worry, we'll talk about Hila we'll talk about Hila to an extent, because, you know, you can't really talk about this without talking about Hila. Hila, you know, however you pronounce it. I've been saying Hila because I thought that's like the actual correct way to pronounce it. I could be wrong, but, you know, that's what I remember. The H3H3 channel / brand can broadly be considered commentary. You all know about commentary on YouTube, at least in a political context. But there was a massive commentary community on the site for a while. Like, from like the 2010s to like fucking like 2017. It's kind of like when the content, like when the commentary content style was kind of like big. It was a lot of different people used the commentary style of playing a video, you give your commentary on it, you play the video some more, you give some more commentary about it. Kind of like a reaction video, except like more work. Like a reaction video, it's like you let the video play and then you go, that's it, this is a comment that I'm going to make about this video. And then the video plays some more. But back in the day, you actually would edit your video to be around the other person's video, or I guess their videos, you know, around yours. You know, it was done for like film reviewers like the Nostalgia Critic. It was done for the skeptic channels like the Amazing Atheist. It was done for commentary over like the Game Dude. It was done for Ethan Klein's type of content. And Ethan became popular in his own right. Then he got into a bit of a hurdle with a copyright infringement lawsuit by Matt Hosenday because he commentated on his video, leading to Philip DeFranco raising thousands of dollars for their legal defenses. I don't know if this led to Ethan to get more popular or if he was already popular and then this just kind of became more of a thing. But afterwards, Ethan sort of became a god on YouTube. Like, for real, I'm not even kidding. There was a time period on YouTube where there were certain channels that just seemed like they ruled the internet. A lot of them in this sort of like commentary type style, like H3H3, iDubbbz, Filthy Frank, Grade A Under A, content like that. They just, I don't know why, they just seem like really popular. Like, I don't even remember if I was like a fan of some of these creators at the time or not. But I remember like hearing I remember hearing about these creators and then going to them because they were like big. And Ethan and Hila, or the H3 brand, kind of went more in this like more outspoken. You know, they would become prominent in the anti-SJW adjacent sphere. Most prominent YouTubers at the time hated SJWs. Became a prominent voice in the net neutrality movement. Had a big role in the YouTube sphere, like big. And due to this, it was a circular cycle. More outspoken he got, more people came to his channel. And they were like, yes, we like Ethan. We think that their channel is interesting and funny. He'd call out YouTube for like some bad things that they do, either a copyright related thing or like just general censorship. And he would, again, like it was circular cycle. You know, that was the hip thing. Like, yeah, fuck YouTube. Fuck copyright infringement lawsuits. And then in 2017, that's when the internet started changing a little bit. Like post-Trump, like in the immediate aftermath, a lot of things started changing for the internet with the rise of a lot of other things like, you know, the alt-right, that kind of like content, which led to a lot of changes. And one of the things that changed for a lot of these people in the sphere is that a lot of them kind of just disappeared. iDubbbz started making a shift away from that type of content. Filthy Frank had to just like stop doing that content, period. He also said that he had like other medical issues that were the reason why he stopped doing it, but like one of the medical issues doesn't make sense in retrospect. Like he says, I can't do this because it strains on my throat, and then decides to become a singer. I'm pretty sure he had like actual, again, legitimate medical issues that probably prevented him from like continuing to do the content as it was. But come on. Clearly, he also saw the writing on the wall. Was like, maybe it's high time that I choose one of my other hyperfixations to make my career. And Ethan probably saw the writing on the walls too, because, you know, around that same time, him and Hila decided we should probably try something else. So change the brand. They still made stuff on the H3H3 channel, but they also expanded. Hila decided to make a clothing brand called Set It Fresh, and Ethan launched the H3 podcast, which was essentially just the H3H3 videos on a bigger budget with somehow less work, inviting guests like Justin Roiland, Joey Salads, and Jordan Peterson, while he would sing the praises of Elon Musk's rocket ships, and, you know, basically shifted his content to kind of be more really centrally focused on the podcast. Now, this is where I'll interject to remind you all, I used to be a fan of H3H3. You know, I remember when, I think it was actually around this time that I kind of became a fan of H3H3. He collabed with some YouTubers that I was like a fans of, you know, like Filthy Frank and JonTron, that kind of stuff. And his content was similar enough to them that I was like, hey, this is good. Then came his podcast, you know, of course, like, hey, he has a podcast. Wow, maybe I'll listen to the podcast. And I watched the podcast. I'll be real. It was rough. It was a rough podcast. Now, granted, I know starting a podcast can be a bit rough. I know that from experience. But I just wasn't really into it. It seemed like really disjointed, at least for that. Like, I mean, I kind of like watched some episodes that I thought were interesting. Like, if one of these guys came on the show, I'd probably be like, hey, Filthy Frank it comes in halfway through this episode. I'm going to skip the first half of this episode because I don't give a shit about Post Malone, and I'm going to watch Filthy Frank's part. But it just kind of seemed like the guests weren't that, like, I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it. So I didn't continue to watch this channel. I just decided not to watch the H3 podcast. But I was like, okay, I mean, at least he'll do like H3H3 videos to like circumvent this, right? I sure did think that, didn't I? And he just stopped making H3 videos. It started off just like he made them less frequently, and then he just stopped making them altogether. And I'll be real, the videos he were making, I didn't really like them. I thought they were like weird concepts, or weird and boring. And like, I mean, I one of the last videos that I saw of his was where he made a content nuke on the YouTuber Keemstar. For those who don't know what Keemstar is like a controversial like drama YouTuber who's done a lot of like really bad and stupid things. In fact, fun fact, you know why I say in the beginning of every episode, let's get right into the news? I do it because I was mocking Keemstar like doing that. I was mocking because that was his catchphrase in drama. I was mocking him for that, but I just do that unironically now. Same thing with my podcast opener. I literally just said that off the cuff just because like, it just came to my mind. And then now, I just say it now. But Ethan, basically the point of that content nuke was to recycle tons of old information about Keemstar that literally everybody knew. And then just say like, oh, look at this new information that I dug up. It's like, I mean, it's not really like new. I knew like literally every single thing that you said in this video. And almost immediately people call out the fact that he was using it to basically just get Keemstar's like advertisers to pull from supporting him. And I mean, I just didn't really, there was just nothing for me there. I mean, it was just kind of natural. Just like, yeah, I mean, sometimes you grow up and you grow out of the content that you liked. I used to be subscribed to a bunch of YouTube poop channels. Not, for those who don't know, YouTube poop. I gotta remind people, YouTube poop is a specific YouTube genre. I did not subscribe to YouTube channels about that. I subscribed to channels that were posting stuff like Mario saying like gay Luigi, that kind of stuff. And my favorite at the time was like 95 Shade. If you know, you know. I literally just Googled him to see how he is, and it turns out he's like a fascist now. Shit. I mean, I kind of saw like some clips and like heard about the grapevine about his bullshit on and off drama with Trisha Paytas for like their fucking show that they were doing. I don't really. But again, like to me, I didn't really care. To me, Ethan was already a has-been of a bygone era. Like that's just how it is. That's just how it is, guys. Like, I mean, sometimes YouTubers are just made for their era and nothing more. His podcast to me was like the definition of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like, I mean, you know, he made like multiple different like side shows trying to be like, hey, maybe this will work, maybe this will work, maybe this will work. And I mean, I'm not blameless either. I've done it throughout my YouTube career, quote unquote. I've tried to do that as well, but like, there really seemed to be a lack of focus on the H3 podcast, because the H3 podcast is very simple. The name, H3 Podcast. It's a podcast about H3. And H3H3, the reason why it's H3H3 is because it's supposed to be he, for like Ethan and Hila. Their first and middle initials, I think. Like their initials, it's supposed to be their initials. But Hila was less like part of the podcast. Like, I mean, early on I think she was, but I think she's like not really that much of a player in the podcast now. I assume her time is more focused on like family and like running the clothing brand. But it seemed like it was just like attention grabbing. Like he wanted attention. And again, no YouTuber is like blameless for the idea of like, I want attention. But like, it just seemed like more noticeable. It's why Ethan was so far as to host a show with a woman that he so very obviously hated, and that made Hila very uncomfortable, to the point where he was willing to put up with a lot of like weird things that she did and said, and like really, in no other sense of the word would anybody even remotely do a show like that with someone that they don't like that much, outside of literally just the mutual benefit of like, hey, I benefit, you benefit, we all benefit. But eventually, it came to a head when that show fell apart. So now, Ethan's like, oh shit, I need a new show. And, well, eventually, during his search for the new show, something interesting happened. August 17th of 2020, Ethan decided to invite a little-known content creator. You probably never heard of him. He's like this guy. His name is Hussein Piker? I don't know. He was like, hey, this guy, you can be a guest on my show. Sure, why not? And then they would even collaborate a second time for a debate. And then they decided, you know what? Screw it. This podcast called Frenemies is not going to be a good idea. We're instead going to make a podcast called Leftovers. And Hassan was going to be his co-host for the show. And it was going to be a explicitly political podcast. Now, here's the thing. Ethan had dabbled in politics prior. You know, he hated SJWs, he spoke general center-left jargons, he made endorsement of Andrew Yang in 2020, he supported, like, things like copyright reform, net neutrality, he defended people like, you know, like, not all Trump supporters are Nazis. But Ethan wasn't really too explicit in regards to politics, because, one, he didn't really want to talk a lot about politics because he didn't really know a lot. He knew enough to have like his like somewhat opinions, but a lot of people know like enough to have like a somewhat opinion on a topic. But he wasn't like well versed enough to like, I'm gonna dedicate an entire fucking podcast to discussing politics alone. And also because his fans didn't like that. Like, they didn't like him just getting into politics because it kind of came for like, we came for that. We came for you to cough for 5 hours. That's what we came here for. But this show seemingly was meant to do a couple of things. Like, one, it was going to take away all this politics talk from the individual show and then put it to this show. And then also, maybe with this show, he could become more informed on politics. You know, that was kind of the idea. Like, hey, I don't know much about politics, so maybe this guy who knows a lot about politics, he could help me out, understand some things. And they didn't agree 100% on everything, so like the idea would also be like, they'd clash on ideas, and then maybe through a debate, they'd be able to like come closer together so they get a better understanding of each other's politics. However, there was also probably another interest. One of the things about the controversy he had with Trisha is the fact that Trisha and him like tussled and they got a lot of views because of their arguments. I would assume that that's also a little bit of that case here, particularly because of the fact that Hassan is the largest Twitch streamer on the internet. Clearly, Hassan was going to be bringing in a lot of eyes to the H3 channel. Not me, because I didn't care. I knew a lot of people in like circles. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Wow. But I didn't care. I don't like Hassan, so this did nothing for me. This didn't change anything for me. This made me go like, oh wow, I'm back on the podcast, friends. Like, cool. A person I'm not really that much of a fan of invited a person I'm also not much of a fan of. Wow, what a concept. However, there was a little bit of a snag in this sense. Hassan and Ethan's fans were somewhat different ideologically, and by somewhat I mean noticeably. Hassan's fans were, let's just say, very ideologically left-wing to far left. And when I say ideologically, I mean these are people that are like, I have read the entirety of the Communist Manifesto for breakfast. They read, breathe, and shit Karl Marx, that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, Ethan Klein's fans kind of have not only a more generic vibe that most normal people have with politics. They kind of know things, but not really. But then also they were just ideologically less I guess we could argue more diverse actually, because his political elements would have center left to center people, maybe even some center right people. Just maybe they were the ones, maybe the center right people were the ones that were like, hey Ethan, stop talking about politics, because they don't want to hear they want to hear what the cringy they want to hear that. That's what they want to hear. Ethan basically the closest thing that he got to politics was kind of de facto shooing away more right-wing voices. I doubt Nazis were watching the H3 podcast. And he was very critical of a lot of Republicans, so it was I assume that also trickles down to normie conservatives. But he did have enough of a right-wing bend that maybe there was also a bit of tension with when all of a sudden now they're in the same room with a bunch of the communists. And while there was tension, the tension seems to be somewhat lighthearted and friendly. Very early on, I remember there was a big drama about how Hassan's fans were insulting Ethan because he was a dirty capitalist. And it led to Ethan and Hassan to kind of debate the efficacies of communism versus capitalism, or I guess socialism, I don't know. But it seemed lighthearted. They were just hey, let's just joking around, whatever. And then came October 7th, 2023, the attack on Israel by Hamas, and the ensuing genocide of the Palestinians. That changed a lot of things. I've stated this before, but the October 7th attack really showed the truth on everyone's part in regards to the Israel-Palestine issue. Before then, a lot of people could vaguely posture about what they believed. They could broadly say oh yeah, I'm broadly pro-Palestinian, or I'm broadly pro-Israeli, or I kind of see where both sides are coming from, that kind of stuff. They could be broad and be more in the abstract in that sense. But October 7th was no. Finally, everybody was put to the test. It was difficult. Not only were you you really had to show are you pro-Israel or are you pro-Palestine? But it also showed true colors within the factions. I've said this before. Back then, you could have three people broadly go, well, yeah, we're all broadly pro-Palestinian. But then, after the attack, one of them goes, well, Israel's kind of got some good points. And then another one says some very Elders of Zion type shit. And the guy in the middle just says, hey, I don't want Palestinian babies to die. So it's now these three guys can stop pretending they're on the same side. They're going to go off and go to their own little factions of the world. I don't have to be in the same room as a guy who says, Israeli babies are colonizers. I can go, that dude's fucking cringe. The few people who were on the pro-Palestinian side who literally just hated Jews showed themselves real quick, so the normal society was able to move past them and just go like, yeah, fuck you, and then move on and be like pro-Palestine. I mean, there are some people who remained fucking stupid and brain dead. Like, I mean, yeah, but like that's the thing. They showed themselves real quick. Like, I mean, look, I'm just saying, when you're a guy who's like retweeting Alex Jones and claiming that he's like right on Israel, and you're like trying to pretend like you're trying to pretend that you're on my side. It's like, you're not on my side. Why would I think you're on the same side as me if you're like saying that Alex Jones is like the person you're going to for political advice? Are you insane? And on the pro-Israel side, they also show themselves real quick. I mean, Israel, the country itself and the government that runs it, like kind of just immediately just became like extremely cartoonishly evil, that it became so obvious. Like, hey, if you're like just supporting them, then yeah, again, back in the day, you could say, like, if you could be a guy with an Israeli flag in the bio and say like, I support Israel and support a two-state solution, and then sound like you mean it. But then, when you get to the point where the government that you're defending says they do not support a two-state solution, they're going to annex the two areas of Palestine, they're going to kill the people who are there, and they're going to move forward. The children of light shall not be shadowed by the children of darkness, as they once said. Like, how can you pretend that you're like pro two-state solution and then in the same breath go like, I support the country that is literally trying to destroy the so-called second state? It's like, what? And all of Assange's fans agreed with that sentiment. So when Ethan started saying some slightly pro-Israeli things, people started calling him out on it. Now, to preface it, Ethan is an Israeli dual citizen, and Hila is a Israeli-born citizen. I don't know if she's a dual citizen or if she's just an American citizen because she's a naturalized citizen. I don't know if they let her become a dual citizen or not. But she was Israeli-born, so that's important to mention. What's also important to mention is that she also served in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, because IDF service is mandatory. And her service has been held to a lot of scrutiny, especially recently, with people resurfacing a clip on the official H3 podcast channel where she explains her service in the IDF, stating that she was mad that she was stuck at a desk job to begin her career with and was eager to join in on some of the raids that took place during the Second Intifada, even name-dropping Ramallah as a terrorist city that she took part on in a raid. Now, Hila was a little coy with her service, but she used the H3 podcast that she talked about this on to talk a lot about her non-combative role in her early military stage. Then, as she went to the part where it was like an active military part, kind of was like vague, and it says like, I served in the military and I took part in it. I think it even came to the point where she was trying to I think initially the point was she was trying to defend the fact, she was trying to defend people who were claiming that she did not serve in a military combat sentence. And she's like, no, I did. But she wasn't exactly clear on a lot of her thing. She said that she took part in a raid in Ramallah, and she didn't know the English word for her rank in the military, but did mention that she directly served underneath, quote-unquote, the guy in charge, according to Ethan. But people have done their digging, and, well, i.e. they watched H3's videos where they don't really explicitly hide the fact. They say, yeah, she was an Israeli, she was a member of the IDF, and show photos of her in the IDF, and they explain, it point blank shows her rank and what division she served in. Given the military uniform she had, given the specific stripes she had, and the specific symbol she had, and the specific beret she had, it's very obvious to tell that she was a corporal in the Kafir Brigade. Now, what's funny is that I was like, oh, and I looked up Kafir Brigade. That brigade on the Wikipedia page has a controversy section, so it's like, ooh. It seems that particular brigade is the more radical youth-based brigade. After I don't know how long Hila served on the IDF, Like, all I know is that she took place in the Second Intifada. That's all I know. That is all I knew, and that is all I've been able to find. As I don't know how IDF military service works, or how Hila specifically served in the IDF, but at one point, from what I gathered, this probably took place after she served in her military role. I don't know. It was in 2009, so she could have still been serving in the military at the time. Someone could correct me in the comments or whatever. But this specific, faction, at one point, openly disobeyed orders to remove West Bank settlers from their settlements, despite the fact they were supposed to. Because their radicalization, they were radicalized to be the point, no, we're not going to do this thing because we believe that the settlers are on the right. So to me, it kind of sounds like this is a bit of the equivalent of it sounds like this is kind of the equivalent of a person who's a Ukrainian podcast talking about the Ukraine war. Is I served as a member of the Ukrainian military. And then you do your research and you realize, oh wait, they were the captain of the fucking Azov battalion. What? But that was stuff people looked at in retrospect. At that point, up to that point, they weren't really doing anything that innocuous at first. Basically, all Ethan was doing was saying hey, I don't like anti-Semitism. And, well, you guys have the right to protest, but I'm just saying, be weary. Sometimes, sometimes people in this crowd kind of, sometimes get a little crazy, and, anti-Semitism is kind of a thing, hey, look at this. Look, Second Thought said the settlers, the babies in Israel are settlers. That's crazy, right? Look, this guy from the PSL, which has 600 members, he said this crazy cringe thing at a rally. Man, isn't that crazy and crazy? And Hassan agreed. Hassan was yeah, these guys are going a little bit too far. And while his fans were a bit more harsh to Ethan, Hassan tried to defend Ethan, be hey guys, come on. You gotta kind of understand where he's coming from, and maybe we can explain things. Maybe we can kind of Hassan still trying to do what the show intended to do, try to be okay, Ethan, I see you're having some confusion here, buddy. Let me try to correct some of the records. Sometimes Ethan would say something and he'd be oh wait, hold on, Ethan, that's not exactly quite right. And sometimes Ethan would say something well, that's a little bit of a complex scenario. Let me give you a little bit more of an explanation from this perspective. And believe it or not, early on, Ethan seemed to be accepting of some understanding. To some extent, Ethan did go oh yeah. I could kind of see where you're coming from. There are still a little bit of weariness on my end, but I can kind of see what you're saying. I think at one point he literally even said that he understood why West Bank settlements would be attacked because they're the ones who aggressed. But yeah, at first it seemed like they were actually still in somewhat of a good communication in regards to this issue. But as the conflict kept going on and Israel kept getting a bit more cartoonishly evil, Ethan maintained his support for Israel, even as the ways that he expresses his politics counteract everything that the Israeli government says and stands for and does. You want a two-state solution, and yet you're supporting Israel, who literally does not want a two-state solution. And I think the first thing that really kind of showed that, Ethan was not going to change his mind. He was not going to change his mind. It really does not matter what he said. It really does not matter. It really does not matter what would happen, is when Ethan Klein was brought up, when he kept saying, oh yeah, this is a Jewish issue. He kept bringing up, this is a Jewish issue. We're trying to, it's oh, well, you gotta understand from the perspective of a Jewish person. And then Hassan would say, hey, there are all these Jewish people who do not have your perspective. They disagree with your statement that, oh, it's a Jewish issue. And if you're only a Jewish person, you can understand when here are Jewish people who explicitly do not agree with your statement in this regard, particularly citing Jewish Voice for Peace. And then Ethan claimed that they were essentially the equivalent of Jewish Nazi collaborators. And it's kind of, again, that's the big thing. He said, name me one Jewish person who does this. And he's oh yeah, here's an entire fucking organization of them. And he's come on, they don't count. When you do that, you're kind of yeah, you lost the plot. Hassan still tried to maintain that there was some sort of way he could try to explain and misunderstand. But as soon as this kept going on, Ethan kept doing his favorite move. He did his favorite move. This is a move that he does a lot. The I don't want to talk about it anymore thing. He was upset. I don't want to talk about this anymore. And he does this all the time. Literally. He does this all the time. back in the early days of the H3 podcast, he loved Elon Musk. He was like, oh, Elon Musk is so cool. Elon Musk is so fucking great. His cum tastes delicious. He would always do that. And then, as soon as Elon Musk went crazy, I don't want to talk about Elon Musk anymore. During the anti-SJW phase, when the anti-SJW things turned into like the alt-right, all of a sudden, Ethan Klein's like, I don't want to talk about SJWs anymore. When Jordan Peterson literally changed absolutely nothing about himself, but people explicitly call him out like, hey, Jordan Peterson's a fucking transphobe. But Ethan Klein's like, wait, what? Jordan Peterson's a transphobe? I don't want to talk about it anymore. That one I really don't get. I really don't fucking get why people were so fucking enamored with Jordan Peterson. Dude, the dude made his career explicitly on not wanting to call trans students by their preferred pronouns, and then you had to wait fucking 5 million years to realize, wait, Jordan Peterson's a right-wing transphobe? However, he just continued to talk about it. Every time, he really just needed to defend Israel. Again, he doesn't want to talk about it? Fine, don't talk about it. And then he talks about it some more, and then more, and then more, and then more. And when he defends Israel, he gets called out for defending Israel. Even as Israel gets more and more cartoonishly evil, and despite the fact that Hassan, again, tries to be nice and discuss things, eventually, when he says, oh, I don't want to talk about it anymore, what he meant was, I don't want to talk about it in a platform that allows me to get challenged. So he kicked Hassan off the show, and then started talking about it by himself, and basically so that he would be able to say, I support Israel 100%, without any sort of semblance of, kickback and pushback. And he continues to defend Israel to this day, even as Israel commits a genocide in Palestine, says that if you cover the events of the Gaza war objectively, you support Hamas, commits a genocide in Palestine, says that it's okay to anally rape prisoners, commits a genocide in Palestine, raids Palestinian hospitals explicitly breaking the Geneva Convention, commits a genocide in Palestine, tells people to leave Gaza, then starts bombing the only roads that lead out of Gaza, commits a genocide in Palestine, attempts to use Eurovision to rally support of the genocide, commits a genocide in Palestine, says that children that Israelis kill are pro-Hamas, commits a genocide in Palestine, says that the hostages are pro-Hamas, commits a genocide in Palestine, uses pagers as bombs that kill 12 civilians and injure 4,000 more, commit a genocide in Palestine, send Palestinian hostages looking like fucking skeletons, committing a genocide in Palestine, turns off all the electricity and water in Gaza, leaving people to die of thirst, and for hospitals to literally not have electricity, commits genocide in Palestine, starts attacking Syria the second that Assad leaves, commits a genocide in Palestine, literally breaks a ceasefire that they made a deal to push for, continues to commit genocide in Palestine, commits a genocide in Palestine, commits a genocide in Palestine, and there's something else that they're doing. Oh yeah, committing a genocide in Palestine. Honestly, I'm being serious. I do not understand how you can look at this situation and then come out supporting Israel. Even I would understand if you were like, oh, well, both sides have some bad things about each other. I do not see a scenario where you can go yes, Israel is in the right. I literally went from being somewhat understanding of people who are supportive of Israel. I didn't agree with them, but I was I guess there is some elements of understanding. But then it's then after not only simply watching Israel do things, it's funny. The easiest thing to turn someone against Israel, just let Israel fucking speak for itself. I mean this in the most objective sense. I keep saying Israel is so cartoonishly evil because, literally, if this were a thing in a fucking movie, people would say this is unrealistic. Come on, it's a little it's hyperbolic, man. You don't have to paint them as this cartoonishly evil. But it's they keep doing things that are cartoonishly evil. I don't use the word evil lightly either. I mean it. I mean it. There is no scenario where you're oh, well, we bombed that children's hospital because a Hamas was in there. It's if you describe that action as anything less than evil, then it's just you have no heart. You just have no heart. And then you expect me to cry crocodile tears for the abstract Israeli that gets hurt? Like, I'm not talking about, like, abstract. I'm talking about, like, for Palestine, it's like, here is the child that is, like, mutilated. I have seen way too many mutilated corpses of Palestinian children. I remember way early on in this conflict where Israel was literally, like, making AI-generated, like, material to be like, man, wouldn't it be a shame if this happened? That's why we gotta stop this soon. It's like, oh, those pesky Palestinians have, like, actual mutilated corpses to use. Like, I mean, again, like, if you were even if you were to do the thing where it's like, oh, well, I hate both sides, and, like, I want the peace on both sides. I want all the children of both sides to be, like, happy and healthy. It's like, that's my position. That's my position. That's what I advocate for. Which is why I'm against the aggressor in this conflict. You can't feign support for people of one particular country's children dying and not the other. In a most objective sense, if you're saying that the children in this conflict that are being killed are important to you, which they are to me, they are important to me. If you're saying that, then you also have to look at the fact that per capita and just generally, more Palestinian children are killed in this conflict. I cannot imagine you saying that you care about the children, but then also hyper-focusing on Israeli children when more Palestinian children get killed in this conflict. Countingthekids.org, literally just scroll down the website and then you tell me who's facing more of a problem in this conflict. Honestly, it's really cut and dry from my point of view. But unfortunately, Ethan doesn't have that point of view. Ethan, like most liberals and Zionists, have the dumbest surface level analysis on not just this, but everything, but particularly this, because this is what we're talking about. Because with liberals in this conflict, they always do this. They either start their analysis on October 7th, or they start their analysis 6,000 years ago. The Israelites colonized this land. Conveniently, both of these analyses circumvent Israel's, like, play in this. Like, somehow, conveniently, if it's old or if it's new, Israel doesn't get blamed for anything. Again, even if you were to do the fucking, like, oh, both sidesing of this, then it's like, that's one thing. That's at least somewhat related to reality. It's like, you still gotta analyze the true facts about the situation. And, again, every time you do the actual analysis in every sense of the word, Israel's the one who's got more of the blame. Who has more power and more backing from other countries? Israel. Who is the one who gets more of the shit in the conflict? Palestine. Just objectively numbers-wise, and just everything. It just seems so cut and dry to me. Like, even a both sides your person would at least, I think, somewhat acknowledge, like, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I guess he is, like, more noticeable in that sense. Even if you were to, again, do the whole, like, both sides of, like, well, Palestine does have something. It's like, whatever. I'm just saying, a situation where it's like Israel gets none of the blame, but Palestine gets all the blame is like, what in the world are you even discussing? What are you talking about? You don't know anything. The only ways you could be remotely this stupid is either you're stupid, just in generally, or you're, like, completely propagandized. And conveniently with H3H3, you get both. Now, Ethan might actually be offended, because one of the things that he kept trying to say with his debates with Hassan is, like, they keep saying I'm a Zionist. I'm not a Zionist. Yeah, you are. Literally, fake, like, textbook definition, Zionist, a person who defends the creation of a Jewish homeland in Israel. Literally, on the most basic levels, you are a Zionist. Just, I mean, you could be one of the cooler versions of Zionism, like labor Zionism or something, but you're a Zionist. That is a fact. It's the equivalent of saying, like, I'm not a communist. Well, do you support the workers owning the means of production? Well, yeah, congratulations, you're a communist. Well, I mean, come on, I'm not an atheist. Do you believe there's a God? No. Congratulations, you're an atheist. You can use whatever fucking, like, magic word label you want, but the fact of the matter is, you can't change, like, the substance of what it is. And again, very early on, it seemed like Ethan was a Zionist, but, like, yeah, he could have been, like, at least, like, a good version of a Zionist. You know, like, a labor Zionist. He expressed some supports for social democracy, so maybe he was a labor Zionist. I mean, I guess. Maybe he's, like not as hawkish or something. But then as the war goes on, it's like, oh, never mind. because he's been given multiple times to show that he is not the worst kind of Zionist, and yet he continues to defend Israel no matter how many bad things they do because of either religious or ethno-nationalist like intentions. Like, I mean, dude, it's weird. Like, I mean, you don't have to support like a fucking like country because like you have like ties to their nationality. Like I'm part Irish. That doesn't mean I have to support everything the Irish government does. And it seems Ethan, like, again, service level analysis. Like, his problem is like, oh, we have Netanyahu in charge. That's the problem. If Netanyahu wasn't there, then things would be different. It's like, really? Because there have been a lot of people who weren't Netanyahu who were in charge of Israel and still led to the same situation that we're in today. Even Labour-backed governments were a little bit more hawkish on the Israel-Palestine issue than some people even acknowledge. Now Israel is led by the ethno-nationalist parties, so, I mean, clearly things are going to get way worse. And then his podcast devolved, where now it seems like the entirety of his podcast is essentially shitting on, like, people who call him out on his support for Israel. Particularly Hassan, but he also has expanded his route to not only just other content creators like Bad and Banada, because he looks vaguely ethnic enough to like stir up ethno-nationalism against Arabs, despite the fact that he's not Arab, he's the white guy. Ethan, don't do it, man, don't do it, don't make the mistake I did. But has also expanded to other content creators like Denims, who have called out Ethan through reactions to Bad and Banada, but also just random Instagram users, apparently. Now, Hassan has tried to be the bigger man in all this, and has actually tried to ignore this for, like, whatever friendship he had with Ethan. Like, he tried to ignore this to the best of his ability. Meanwhile, we have people like Bada Banana who doesn't care, you know, he doesn't give a fuck. He really does not care. He just goes all in, just like, yeah, let's just get into this. And it's actually, it has been pretty funny. I haven't, like, I criticized him in my fucking like Bad Banana video where I said like, hey, his second channel, his content's not that good, and now it's a banger. Like, I clicked one just to see like, hey, what's all this drama about anyways? I mean, I knew of like the drama in that sense, but like I didn't really know the full ins and outs. Like I just knew vaguely of the idea, and like I guess Bad Banana is like, again, Bad Banana being Bad Banana doesn't care, and he's like just gonna spend like whatever time he has on this earth to make sure Ethan Klein does not have a criticism-free day, I guess. Now, granted, Ben Empanada actually is trying to do like something a bit more and trying to go beyond just the personality drama of it, because a lot of people are trying to still go about it like just a personality drama. You know, like, oh, Hassan and Ethan are getting into a little bit of a fight. And it's like, well, it's a bit more than just like a fight over like, I don't know, who ate the Ritz crackers or whatever. It's like, hey, this is a fight about like fucking like dying children. So it's like, I think it's a bit more important than that to like have like a content slop YouTubers like discussing this. But instead tried to use this as a stepping stone to talk more about like the Israel issue like broadly. A smaller YouTuber named Overzealous, who's like a left-wing content creator that I've been like watching a lot more recently, did the same thing as well, where he took some like statements that Ethan made and kind of used them as stepping stones to discuss like more pertinent issues. You know, like he made 2 videos recently that both have Ethan in the thumbnail, where like he uses a quote that Ethan says like, socialism everywhere it goes it has caused more harm, and he's like, here are all the times where capitalism has caused more harm than socialism, and here are all the times that socialist countries have prospered. And one of the biggest culminations of this drama was when Ethan Klein decided to release his second content nuke on Hassan. And despite my better judgment, I actually tried to watch it. I've been exercising a lot, so I was just like, I'm going to exercise for an hour anyways. It's like an hour long. I'll just watch this, I guess. Was it an hour long? I forget how long it was. But it's like, whatever. I was like, I could knock out some of it in an hour. So I was just like, yeah, whatever. But I eventually just had to stop watching because it's just like, this shit is so bad. It was so fucking bad. And I knew it would be bad because I was a fan of H3H3. I saw his first content nuke, and he did literally the same thing. He took information that literally everybody knew and acted like it was some big expose. Like, literally, like, the first fourth of the video is literally just, like, Ethan's like, hey, guys. Hey, guys. When I watched Hassan, I thought he was, like, I thought he was a social democrat. Turns out, he might be a socialist. It's like, what, huh? Wait. There's no way you thought he was a social democrat. There is not a single ounce of me that is actually convinced that you didn't know he wasn't a social democrat. There is not a single ounce of it that, I want to just say, like, yeah, of course you believe it because he's fucking stupid, but it's like, there is no way you looked at Hassan's content and went, this guy is a social democrat. He has a statue of Lenin behind him. He used that to call you out. Your first controversy with him was when his audience was shitting on you for being a social democrat. And then you somehow walked away from them thinking, Hassan's a social democrat too. Like, best case scenario, you're just stupid and nobody should be listening to you for political takes. Worst case scenario, you're intentionally lying. And considering the second fourth of this one was also basically just taking Hassan clips out of context and just lying about them, because Ethan's more of a fan of like the like tit for tat like commentary style where it's like take one small clip and then just talk around it essentially. And then made the claim that Twitch supports terrorism and anti-Semitism because Arabic content creators are allowed on. Almost like how conservatives claim that the media is too close to the Palestinian cause, whatever. You know, again, taking like 15,000 clips out of context and making Hassan and other people look worse. Which he does on his channel regardless of the nuke. Like the time that Ethan literally took a clip of Hassan denouncing Israeli settlers stealing Gaza aid and saying, come on, dude, those are just, like, benign people. What's the problem? They're just standing there. And it's like, dude, the clip is literally the seconds before, Hassan's just like, yeah, there's, like, an aid, like, truck that is being raided right now by these guys, the Israeli settlers. And he's just like, why is Hassan, like, mad at them? What, for being Jewish? What? And again, like, the reason why he did this is so that he could do the tit-for-tat commentary and not get directly challenged in the studio. Like, he could say whatever he wants, and he has to wait until the next person does, like, a fucking video responding to him so that they can actually do that. Like, that's how it works for him. That's his style, and that's why that style was kind of shit to begin with. Like, dude, now there is not a single person in the studio that Ethan doesn't financially give money to. Like, of course they're not going to say anything bad about him because he pays them. He can say all day long that Bada Banana is a wanted criminal going to get him and provide no substance because his fans will just go, well, yeah, of course. Why would Ethan Klein lie to me? Dude, this shit about the drama was so fucking funny when I saw it. It's just, like, so fucking funny. He literally said, like, Bada Banana has, like, a secret Discord server, and I was able to infiltrate it, and I found all these messages. I'll definitely get him, like, arrested for sure, and I'm gonna compile them together and then post them online. Meanwhile, Bada Banana is just like, my Discord server is, like, for anybody who gives me, like, $1. Literally, it's not, like, a secret. You could just pay money and then get into it. You could pay, like, $1. And then he's just like, okay, if you want it to be like that, fine. Here is literally every single Discord message that has ever been sent in my server. Show me the message where I'm going to get in trouble. Like, I don't get the fucking attitude of, like, hiding and doing the tit-for-tat, like, commentary style. I would have loved to do, like, fucking, like, debates and stuff on my internet weren't so shit. Like, debates, discussions, like, whatever, like, collabs. I'd love to do that. But my internet is just not that good, so I just can't do it. Like, Hassan's been, like, extremely gracious in this conflict. Where, like, he's literally just been like, hey, Ethan, let's talk about this. We don't have to talk in public. We can talk about it privately. Or hell, if you don't like me and you don't trust me, how about Sam Cedar? You were friends with Sam Cedar. You brought Sam Cedar on to, like, debunk, like, Sam Crowder or Steven Crowder or whatever. You can bring them on. It's funny considering, like Ethan, like, platformed Sam Cedar, who also himself platformed the late great Michael Brooks, who also just unequivocally says, like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts in regards to the issue of Israel-Palestine. Ethan's even gotten to the point where he's trying to make these strange insinuations about Hassan fans because they bring up the fact that Ethan Klein has kids. Because Ethan continually posts on his Instagram that he's obsessed with Hassan. Like, he is obsessed. Every single story that he posts on Instagram is like Hassan related. It's just insane. Like, he stopped posting on Twitter because he kept getting shit on Israel-Palestine. But again, like on his Instagram, where he's like gotten rid of the ways that you can directly reply to him, where he can post screenshots or short clips about whatever he wants without anybody directly commentating about it, unless they were to take a screenshot of a screenshot and then post it on a different social media site and then go, hey, Ethan Klein, blah, 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 blah. Again, doing the tit-for-tat style. During the California wildfires, he was posting about like Hassan, like, man, Hassan must want me dead in his fire. It's like, dude, Hassan has not mentioned you in like fucking 5 months. What are you talking about? Or I don't know how long it was. I just put that number down because it's just like, dude, again, like, dude, it literally, all I'm seeing is you crashing out. I'm seeing nothing from Hassan. Like, Hassan, it's like, while you do this, Hassan is raising money for the wildfires and interviewing like one of the like slaves that is being used to like fight the fire in California. During the holiday, Ethan talked about how like he was like spending the entirety of the holiday season editing the Hassan content nuke, not only to the detriment of like not hanging out with his like family and stuff, but even to the point where he was like, man, I was editing so hard, my neck hurts now. It's like, what? And then we talk about some other things about like his personal life, including like a scare that he had with a virus called Giardia, which would then lead to either someone sincerely, but more likely trollingly, like calling CPS on Ethan Klein, who then opened an investigation on child endangerment. Now, I should be clear to mention this. Ethan Klein brought that up on his own podcast, regardless of the drama. He just brought it up. So, literally, this could have been related to anything else. Like, literally, it could have just been some random guy just trolling him for the fun of it. But Ethan is 100% convinced that it was Hassan fans who did it, and Hassan owns every single thing that his fans do. So does that mean, Ethan, you own every single thing that all your fans have done to Hassan and like all the other things? Do you own that? If Hassan owns everything that his fans do, then do you own all the things that your fans do? So then Ethan decided to get back at Hassan for like doing this. Now, here's the thing. Hassan has explicitly said, dude, this is fucked up. You guys shouldn't have done that. Like, explicitly. He said that. He explicitly said, hey, yeah, this is fucked up. Don't do that. But Ethan Klein, I guess, didn't get the memo. So then he is again like, yeah, Hassan is, like, evil, gross, and crazy. So he then decided to randomly say on his podcast, hey, Hassan's cleaning lady is an illegal immigrant. It's like, wait, what? Keep in mind, Ethan Klein said this during the administration of the guy who says that he wants to massive deport every single illegal immigrant in the nation. So, I'm just saying, clearly Ethan was doing it as revenge, clearly, like this, unequivocally, and then tried to get back at him because of another controversy where he said like, oh, this cleaning lady that works for Ethan Klein is suing them because they like they had like an employment disagreement or something. So then this is like revenge, like, oh, you have a cleaning lady and she's an immigrant. That's interesting. And then other people who have been friends with Hassan and went to his house were like, wait, what are you talking about? What the fuck are you even discussing? What are you talking about? Turns out, the person that he assumed was an illegal immigrant might have been Hassan's fucking mom. So it's like, what? You just unequivocally just went like, brown lady, old, make food, Mexican immigrant lady, housekeeping. Like, that's what? Like, and this is the thing, it's weird. It's like, on one end, it's like, don't bring a family into it. Oh, by the way, Hassan's mom, illegal immigrant Mexican. It's like, what? But it's like, you don't understand why they don't bring up, like, Ethan's kids and be like, oh, Ethan's kids, like, bring them into the controversy. I guess except for, like, the guy who called CPS. Or lady, you know, the troll could have been any gender or no gender. I don't know. We're progressive in this household. But yeah, I guess to just state this, I think it's just like, I mean, yeah, that's kind of just, like, weird. Don't do that. Like, don't call CPS if it's not like a legitimate concern. Like, don't do that. These services are already being like stretched thin like immensely, so it's like it's probably best to like focus on like actual like legitimate concerns if you have them. I mean, for all we know, this could have been a guy who actually legitimately did have a concern due to that. And then I guess you take that up with them, I guess. I mean, we're just assuming, like, whatever the person's intentions are. We don't know who this person who did this is. We don't know, like, anything about it. I don't even know if the CPS investigation is still going on or anything. I don't know if it, like, ended quick or if it's still going on or whatever. But, like, one of the reasons why, like, people would bring up Ethan's kids is, like, this fact. It's just, like, I personally cannot imagine being in your shoes, Ethan Klein, and doing this. I just cannot imagine this. You are rich. You have a wife. You have kids. You have a successful podcast. You have a clothing brand. You're like, you could literally just walk away and retire happy as fuck. You could just do whatever you want. Just coast on like the 2017 era of fame on YouTube you have forever. Just coast on that. Like, I mean, on one end, you could just not get involved in politics at all. You're clearly doing fine in the system that exists now. I don't really see any big reason why you have to, like, even discuss, like, any big changes. Like, but why this specifically? Like, ignoring the immorality of defending a genocidal ethno-nationalist settler colonial state. Ignoring the fact that in America there are, like, hundreds, if not thousands of other issues you could be discussing that are more important. The Department of Education was just cut. Climate change is about to be an unmitigated disaster. LGBTQ rights are are right in the trash. The cost of living is going to be through the roof. The job market's crumbling. Like, a lot of bad things are happening in the world right now, Ethan. I mean, you're a father. I would assume, like, if you're going to, like, get involved in politics, like, talk about one of those issues that are going to, like, directly affect your children? Like, what? Or even just, like, generally, like, for all children around the world. But also on this fact. Ethan, in an actual substantive political sense, on this specific issue, you won. Like, you won. You're victorious. The candidate who got over $230 million from the Israeli lobby won the presidential election. Netanyahu's choice for the election won. The candidate that a majority of Israelis supported. Like, literally, they did polling in Israel that showed they preferred Trump over Kamala. They won. Like, they won. All of the Trump administration has expressed their undying loyalty to Israel, particularly the, like, Secretary of State, who is an Israeli war hawk. You won. Again, you won. Like some of the few pro-Palestinian voices in Congress lost. Israel is going to get the support that they want, and the people you think should be punished are going to get punished. Trump is deporting people who are pro-Palestinian. Ethan, you won. On every single substantive stance in this issue, you have won. You are victorious. What more could you possibly desire that you do not already have? Blind loyalty. He's mad that the young generation isn't blindly loyal to Israel. He's mad that due to the fact that he is blindly loyal to Israel, the young generation that at one point made his audience now look at him with disgust. And rather than accepting this fact, old reactionary boomer wants to fight back. That's always how it is. Old people, old reactionaries always want to just be like, no. It's not me. It's not me. My shitty actions didn't do anything. It was the children's fault. Guess what, Ethan? It's not happening anytime soon. Only 46 of Americans, as of now, support Israel. Come on, boys. We can make it 0 if we try hard enough. And think about it, Ethan. As the world gets more access to information, the support for Israel goes down. I wonder if there's any sort of connection to that at all. Scratch that. They all know this. That's why they tried to ban TikTok. Can't silence us all. Also, I don't know if I should, but I'm just going to say this very abundantly clear because, I don't know, I guess I just need a transition to talk about this. I know what some people are going to say. I know what Ethan and or other people are going to say. They're going to say, anybody who sees this who's like ever even remotely close to like Ethan or whatever are going to say like, oh, this Hassan fan goes crazy or blah, blah, blah. This Hassan fan. I don't like Hassan. Fuck Hassan. I don't care about Hassan. I don't like him. I do not like his content. I made a video before the Ethan one about Hassan and how I don't like him. Hassan literally freebooted my content and made money off of it while I sat here poor. But that's the thing. This isn't about fucking like, oh, Hassan versus Ethan. I don't care about either of these individuals. I literally do not care about either of them. But Ethan had the foolish idea of making this to an actual like political issue. And in that sense, you lose. Morally, you're in the wrong. Factually, you're in the wrong. Think about it, Ethan. The only way you can get people on your side is to lie, is to skew information. You called Denham's nasty words because she called out the fact that a person, like, wasn't sexually assaulted, and then you claim, no, they were, and it's like, no, literally, the documentary shows that they were not. It's a person who was held victim by Hamas, but they were not sexually harassed by Hamas. They were not raped by Hamas. They were raped later in life. They were just also a Hamas, like hostage. I mean, very early on, there are a lot of people who literally tried to turn this into a personality thing. Vaush literally came out of the woodwork to be like, hey, Ethan, I heard that Hassan and you broke friendship. Can we be friends? Can I be your socialist friend? And then Ethan burned that bridge super fucking fast. Just like, nope. Because Vaush was too clad in his hate for Hassan to, like, understand, like, Ethan's in the fucking wrong. Also, I find it funny that Ethan Klein's like, no. Like, for Vaush, no, get out of here, Vaush. But in that same vein, like, he was at some point friends with Psyche Pebbles, who at the time of their friendship and collaborations was literally a roommate with Shadman, one of the most infamous lolicon artists on the internet. With Zach literally defending Shadman's art on multiple occasions. It's only when they have opposing political views to you that you have a problem with it. Also, he and glass houses should not throw stones because there's literally a video of Ethan Klein sexually harassing a 17-year-old Boston bombing victim. Like, literally, he describes in graphic detail sexual acts and describes their body in a very sexual manner about things that he would do to her and things that she looks like and like I mean, genuinely, like, I can't even quote it. It's just like, it's insane, honestly. Keep in mind, he got mad at Vaush for cartoon ones, and Ethan did this to, like, a real girl. If what Vaush did is morally bad, and we could all probably say our opinion on whether or not what Vaush did is morally bad or not, but if that's the case, then would that not mean, like, what Ethan Klein did is worse? And there's some people who unironically just defend him. They're just like, that's just how the old internet was, or it was 10 years ago, calm down. For one, Ethan Klein was 29 at the time of the incident, and two, the old internet thought Shadman was a god. The old internet thought that harassing a 10-year-old rape victim was justice being served. This isn't a defense. That's a defense for, like, a fucking, like edgy joke about 9/11, not like a defense about, like, zooming in on a 17-year-old's pelvic region. I'll be honest, this entire argument to me fell flat after a different internet controversy where a YouTuber named Chugga Conroy, like, was caught, like, being, like talking to minors in his, like, email, and then, like, they were, like, defending, like, come on, dude, that's just how the old internet was. Like, no, I don't think that's how the old internet was. What are you talking about? Well, actually, scratch that. It seems like that was the old internet, because, like, 15 million, like, online internet users were turned out to, like, be DMing minors, so I guess that was how the old internet was. But, like, no, it's not a defense for, like, going into a 15-year-old's DMs and saying that you're gonna rape them, and it's not a defense for making, like, very sexual comments about an actual minor, like, publicly. Again, edgy jokes are one thing, and that's one of the defenses people try to say. It's just like an edgy joke, man. It's like, dude, you could have made this edgy joke in any other way. Like, making that joke is, like, one thing, but, like, doing it in this specific format is fucked up. This is crossing, like, a literal obvious line. Is this not, like, I mean, am I insane for thinking that it's, like, wrong to do this? And the thing is, Ethan has been trying to bury this video. Like, he literally just, like, he's like Bad Banana brought it up, and it's just like, I saw it, and I'm like, what? I saw it on that video, and I was like, what? That is insane. And then one of Ethan's responses is literally just pretending the video just doesn't exist. It's like, dude, literally just go in Google or YouTube and type Ethan Klein Boston bombing, and you'll find the video. Also, to make an obvious point obvious, I'm not anti-Semitic. A lot of my perspective on this issue literally comes from Jewish and even Israeli thinkers and politicians. Bernie Sanders, Meyer London, Andy Levin, Ayman Odeh, Ofer Kassif, Ida Thomas Suleiman, Yosef Atauna, Ahmed Tibi, Yuval Abraham, who made an entire fucking documentary, The No Other Land. I haven't seen it. I should at some point. Wallace Shawn, even Albert Einstein. Like, a lot of these guys have, like, I mean, granted, like, none of these people are, like, 100%, like, unequivocally, like, in agreement. Like, I mean, like, Meyer London was supportive of the idea of, like, you know, he wasn't, like, opposed to the idea of Zionism, but he was, like, opposed to this specific interpretation because it was, like, obviously a settler colonial state, which is why the Israeli lobby then said, no, Meyer London, you're out. Meyer London, Socialist Party member of the United States Congress, literally was being told by a lot of people who are lobbyists saying, hey, you should tell Congress to pass a declaration supporting the Balfour Declaration. And he said, no, I don't think that's right. My principles as a Jewish socialist do not allow me to support a settler colonial state. And they go, ha ha, that's cute. And then they primaried him. Well, they didn't primary him. They literally spent money to help a different candidate win altogether. Meanwhile, Albert Einstein is a Zionist. Like, he is a Zionist. He didn't support the idea of, like, the state of Israel. But he was very critical of, like, its very early implementation. And even went so far as to compare the party that currently runs Israel, by the way, to the Nazis. Literally, just directly. So is Wallace Shawn. I mean, it's not like these guys' issues, like these guys' stances on issue are like more important. It's not like, again, like people of many different religions, ethnicities, and nationalities have formed my perspective on many, if not all, issues. And some of them aren't even nationalities. Sometimes it's literally just looking at the actual numbers and stats and statistics. I merely bring them up to point out the fact, again, this isn't like a monolithic issue. Like, and even now, literally, there is a large faction of the Israeli youth that refuses to join the IDF because they do not want to participate in the genocide. They do not. And that's one of the things that people like to say, like, come on, if we were, like, because like, it's one of the things that they try to use to defend Hila Klein and her being part of the IDF. It's like, well, I mean, come on, guys. We have to think about it from their perspective. In their country, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, clearly, that's not the case. Ofer Kassif was born and raised in the same country Hila was in. He came at it from a different perspective. A lot of these youths just flat out refused to join the IDF. Clearly, there were outs for Hila. Hila made the choice to continue to go down this road. You're right. I don't know what I would have done in that situation, but I can't guarantee that I would have been in that sort of situation. I mean, the United States is a pretty propagandized nation of, like, the U.S. military. And I'd never join the military. Fuck that. I would never do that. Yet there are people who have the exact same resources as me who will then be like, they feel like this nationalistic fervor. But I don't believe in that. I'm sure Israel has a very huge amount of propagandistic nature in regards to their IDF service and their military, like every nation does. It was the same situation given to Kassif, and Kassif said no. It was the same situation that a lot of these Israeli youth now are given, and they say no. It was given to Hila Klein. She said yes. So to baby her and to say, like, oh, she had no choice in the matter. She did have a choice in the matter. She made the choice to join the IDF. Whether she supports it now or not is a different story. But considering they still massively defend, like, oh, I had no choice in the matter, and they also say, oh, well, I mean, Israel still like they still defend Israel. It's like, I mean, clearly you guys don't like. She's trying to say, like, I don't live in Israel anymore. I live in America. I left Israel. I'm your perfect Jew. It's like, what? What? What is that? What? First of all, that notion is like, I'm your perfect Jew. Like, what does that even mean? Oh, I should mention that in reference, because I didn't write this down, but it's like, this is in reference to the fact that, due to, like, the Klein's clash out, they have been getting a lot of, they've been having some trouble. Like, someone didn't want to collaborate with their clothing brand anymore. Like, they're gonna work with this person, and then someone said, hey, you know, I can't work with you anymore. And then Hila Klein started crying and like, they wouldn't work with me because I'm Israeli. And then like literally the paper literally just says, hey, I can't work with you. I'm sorry. That's all it says. It doesn't say anything about like them being Israeli or not. And then Ethan just goes like, should I put them on blast? And it's just like, what? Like literally, like, could it not have been your own actions that led to this? Did it have to be because you're Israeli? I mean, did you check? Did you ask them? But, like, think about that notion, like, the perfect anything, like, the perfect nationality, the perfect religion, perfect whatever. It's like, that is insane. Does that not sound weird to you? Just like that? Like, what? But to get back on my point, because I was a little off topic on that, but, like, even though all these other people who are Jewish, either ethnically or religiously, they say, due to our faith and due to our beliefs, we can't do this. To Ethan and Hila, they don't count. But again, but apparently it's the left that are the anti-Semitic ones. Ignore the fact that the left itself has openly denounced, like, any sort of reactionary, like, belief system in regards to race, religion, etc. And how many of us have explicitly denounced anti-Semitism in particular many times, even amongst people who claim to be with us. I mean, me personally, I dedicate an entire podcast to the issue of left-wing anti-Semitism, because while I feel it is a small issue in the grand scheme of things, it's better to cut the tumor out now before it grows into one of its next stages. And the very sad truth is that Ethan and the way he acts and all this stuff is literally going to lead to more anti-Semitism. It's just a fact. Ethan, by forcing Zionism and Judaism together, unironically leads to more anti-Semitism. It allows people who are actually anti-Semitic to slip under the radar, because many will assume that you're just pulling another all criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism card, which I've seen firsthand. I have debated and discussed with people, and they literally just openly support full-on, like, literal anti-Semitic figures. And then when I point out, like, hey, this person that you're talking about is, like, an actual, literal, unabashed anti-Semite, they go, come on, it's just, like, the liberal propaganda trying to make you hate criticism of Israel. It's like, no. You are literally defending an actual Holocaust denier right now. Like, for real, you're not even, like, defending a leftist. This person is literally just, like, a right-wing, fascist anti-Semite, because you force, like, it's weird. And they, like, this is the thing. They really don't understand how they are how they are literally going to create more anti-Semitism, even though they're literally, like, you're going to force the false dichotomy of, like, you're literally going to force a dichotomy that doesn't exist, and if it did exist, you fucking lose. You would lose. The objective fact is you would lose. Like, this is the fact. You cannot erase the dead Palestinian babies. You cannot. As much as you want to pretend they don't exist, you can't do that. You can't erase dead Palestinian babies. Like, the second you see any fucking, like, dead Palestinian babies, you kind of, like, the argument is there. Like, that is ingrained in people's minds. You are then going to paint a dichotomy where it's like, you have two options. Option A, use your tax dollars to support more of this, or you're going to get labeled a naughty word. How in your right mind can you think that you're going to have, like, a winning argument when that is your dichotomy? Either actual children dying or being labeled a naughty word. I've seen people make the choice. I have seen people make the choice to go from people who were just, like, pro-Palestinian to just being full-blown, like, anti-Semites, because you kept saying, no, you don't understand. Like, this is a Jewish issue. This is a Jewish issue. The Israeli colonization and murder of these Palestinian babies, this is an issue. And if you disagree with us, you're, like, anti-Semite. They just go and just become full-on anti-Semite. If you're just going to give them that economy, that's what they're going to do. Personally, I think that it's a better idea to give them the option of no dead Palestinian babies alongside loving Jews. You know, that's a possibility. Bernie Sanders thought it was a possibility. That's why he's one of the loudest voices against Israel in the United States. Claudius Sheinbaum, the Jewish president of Mexico, recognized the state of Palestine, like, either today or yesterday. But what about Israeli victims, you might be wondering? Palestinians suffer immensely more than Israelis. Over 61,000 Palestinians dead versus a little over 1,000 Israelis dead. Again, like, but one, I really, again, don't, like, I mean, one, crocodile tears, again, like, 1,000 Israelis dead versus 61,000 Palestinians dead. Like, I mean, just number-wise, obviously, one is suffering more than the other. Like, I mean, we could all grieve the 62,000 people who have died unilaterally. We can all grieve on that. But when you're hyper-focusing on, like, the 1,000 people who have died versus the 61,000 other people who have died. Literally, U.S. Congress did that exact same thing. It's like 1,000 Israelis died, Basically, the entirety of Congress turned out for a candlelight vigil, be like, oh, we are so sorry. We are so sad that these 1,000 people died. And then, when a couple of Congress members said, hey, we want to hold a vigil for the 62,000 total victims who died in this tragedy, only like 5 people showed up. I'm sick and tired of your fucking crocodile tears of like hyper-focusing on like, if you, like literally, the reason why they're doing this is because they think those 1,000 Israelis are worth more than those 61,000 Palestinians. No, human life is worth human life. No human is more valuable than any other human. I mean, I guess Ethan can agree. I mean, how did he react when Aaron Bushnell killed himself due to the tragedy of this genocide? I mean, he pointed and laughed at him and made fun of him and like made jokes about him burning to death. But you know, but remember, we gotta cry out those like 1,000 Israelis that died. We gotta cry about them. Remember, we can't cry about those 61,000 Palestinians that are dead. We can't cry about Aaron Bushnell, but we have to cry about those 1,000 Israelis that died. You know, just my opinion. I think we can maybe cry for like all of them, but you know, I guess me and Ethan have a little bit of a difference of opinion there. But to get back to the point, yeah, you're right. There are Israeli victims of this tragedy. That number's not 0. I told you the number. The number is not 0. And you know whose fault it is that those 1,000 Israelis died? Israel. Israel's actions directly led to their deaths. Hamas didn't tell Israel to do the Nakba. Hamas didn't tell Israel to attack the Suez Canal. Hamas didn't tell Israel to make the settlements in the West Bank. Hamas didn't tell Israel to segregate its Arabic citizens. Hamas didn't tell Israel to attack the Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan. Israel chose to do that. And now, sadly, due to their actions, innocent people are going to suffer the consequences. Similar to every government that tries to goad other nations into going to war, that's always what happens. Clearly, the 77 years of hawkish Israeli occupational settler colonialist policies that they've been doing, clearly it has been working well for them. All that it's done is led to a radicalized Palestinian youth to rush to the hands of Hamas because they feel like they have no other option. It's the same thing with the threat of fucking like Islamic terror overall. Like, US and Israel keep doing things that lead to radical Islam to grow more powerful, and then it becomes more powerful and they do things that hurt the US, and the US goes, huh, that's weird. We've been doing all these things to radicalize them so much. How come they hate us? It's like, gee, I wonder why. I wonder fucking why. If they actually cared about the issue at hand, they would actually do something to stop it in some capacity. And I'm just saying, throwing bombs at the problem clearly hasn't been fixing anything, so maybe you should try a different strategy. But there's a reason why they don't want to try a different strategy, because if they try a different strategy, they'd actually solve the problem, and if they solve the problem, they won't have a scapegoat. Dude, Benjamin Netanyahu literally funded Hamas multiple times during his previous governance in order to make Palestinians turn against Fatah, the pro-two-state peaceful party in Palestine. The reason why he was doing it was that he was trying to play like 4D chess to make Palestine weak, because they were the party that was actually like doing things to try and like fix the Palestinian issue on the worldwide scene. So he made them both externally weak by making sure that the people inside of Palestine would go to Hamas, which would make their government look weak and feckless. And then inside of Palestine, they'd make them look bad so that people would not support them and help them to actually like fix the problems of Palestine and go to Hamas. Man, I wonder if this is going to lead to some bad problems. In other news, US funded and backed the Islamic Revolution in Iran. I wonder if that's going to lead to some good results. They funded the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. I wonder if that's going to lead to any problems. Like, dude, they keep doing things that will literally help the people that there are alleged enemies because, again, they want the scapegoat. Meanwhile, liberals, conservatives, and Zionists in general will literally just go like, their entire analysis on this is literally like, why did they go to Hamas? Well, because of radical Islam. It's radical Islam. That's always the analysis. Back in the fucking like, I remember like, I think Ethan, I don't remember if Ethan himself explicitly did this, but like the type of content, like the type of people that were circling around Ethan kind of did the same like type of thing. It was like, it's radical Islam. It's like, well, that's your beginning and end of analysis. Like that, you're not going to go like, why do people turn to radical Islam? And is there any way we could prevent radical Islam from becoming more powerful? Like, you're not going to do anything about that? funnily enough, Ethan's actually the perfect embodiment of the state of Israel. Like, literally, despite all of the power and all of the, like, interest, despite the fact that he has a lot of, like, power and clout, he sees himself as the perpetual victim. Everybody's coming to get him, and everyone who dares criticize him is wrong and evil. Despite everything that he says and does, it doesn't matter. He's in the right, everyone else is in the wrong. Why are you even questioning it? Hila Klein did the same thing too. Remember, she did the whole thing where she's like crying, like, they won't work with me because I'm Israeli. Really? Could it not be because of your crash out at all? Like, it couldn't be because of any of the things that you guys are doing. It has to be because you guys are Israeli. It has to be that. It has to be that, isn't it? Like, I mean, there was actually a funnier thing, like an earlier controversy that some people even like were on Ethan's side on, where like Ethan made a joke about how if there were more concentration camps, he wishes that Ben Shapiro were getting there first because whatever, he was making like an edgy joke. And then a ton of right-wing accounts started attacking him. And despite the fact that they came from Ben Shapiro's circle, he then claimed, oh, they're attacking me because I'm Israeli. Again, he's a perpetual victim. He's the one who's always the victim. The victim. What's funny is the criticism doesn't even have to be coming from a negative place. It can come from a positive place, and he still gets fucking mad. And this one is gonna be like the slightest, like, ever so teetering into like not political element, but like a drama sphere in general. But this is still useful. This is still useful to explain. Okay, so recently he burned the bridge with one of his closest friends and collaborators, a YouTuber named iDubbbz. I mentioned him earlier. He was one of those like edgelord YouTubers that used to like collab with H3H3 a lot. But he's since been like shifting away from like the edgelord type content because he just doesn't really like that kind of content anymore. You know, he's an adult now. He's like, I kind of just want to like be an adult now. But what ended up happening is that iDubbbz, like just as a tongue-in-cheek thing, made a joke because he also runs a boxing thing. Like he runs a boxing thing, like Creator Clash, where like every like year or so, like he invites some YouTubers to like box each other just for like clout and like for fun. So he decided, like, as a joke, he tweeted out like, hey, for the third Creator Clash, I have an idea. Ethan Klein versus Hassan Piker. And I'm pretty sure Hassan got the joke and like tweeted something about it. I don't remember if he did. But Ethan Klein, when he saw that tweet, he saw it like live on his podcast and went like, I love iDubbbz, but like, stop it, dude. Stop it. This is serious. This is serious. He's an anti-Semite. Like, he was really like, he was just like clearly offended by the joke. And it's just like, dude, calm down. Don't get triggered, dude. And then one of the editors of the previous Creator Clash 2, started publicly criticizing Ethan and Hila due to many of their actions. Even bringing up context that might have been used in the CPS thing. Bringing up that Ethan Klein, bringing up like they knew somebody who knew, like this is all hearsay, but like they said like they knew somebody who knew Ethan and then told him, hey, your dog is sick. I think you should do something about that. And then Ethan Klein didn't listen to them, and then they kept feeding the dog like an unhealthy diet, and the dog died of like kidney disease. And then this guy basically said that they, like, due to that fact, they weren't surprised that CPS was called. Again, I know literally nothing about Ethan Klein's personal life, really, so I don't know if this is like a dick move or not. The closest thing I can say is, like, I assume Ethan or Hila or the babysitter takes better care of the kids than the dogs. I mean, I'm just saying. Probably wasn't that much of a concern. I don't know if they were, like, joking around or not, but, like, that's what they said. And then Ethan Klein got really, really mad and then was basically, like, tweeting and, no, I guess not tweeting, but, like, Instagramming iDubbbz, be like, what the fuck, man? Why are you not doing anything? You gotta call this person out. You gotta call this person out. Even going so far as to call iDubbbz spineless. Now, here's the thing. I should remind you this. This person and iDubbbz collaborated like once. He worked for iDubbbz one time. They are currently not employed by iDubbbz, so there's no reason to bring up the fact that there's no reason to bring iDubbbz into the controversy at all, especially considering iDubbbz, one of the big things that he's been doing with his whole like shifting away from the edgelord content, is to try and avoid internet drama. Because a lot of his edgelord like YouTube past led to internet dramas. Especially since even when he started shifting away, internet drama kept trying to pull him back in, but he kept trying to be like, go away, like I don't want to be involved in drama anymore. But like there are multiple reasons why, like for one, it's like, again, iDubbbz does not need to be brought into the drama. And two, like, even if he was employed by IDubbbz, that IDubbbz does not control his employees' political opinions. No, he does not. He does not control this person's political opinions. He should not. Even if it was the boss, he should not do that. But apparently, behind the scenes, IDubbbz was actually trying to reach out to Ethan and actually saying, hey, buddy, you probably shouldn't be having this mental breakdown while CPS is probably investigating you right now. It's probably in your best interest to stop mentioning this, stop talking about this, maybe try to get some mental health for you. You know, you and Hila are very stressed. I went through similar things with my dramas. I think it's for the best interest. I went to therapy with my wife. Everything went great. We're doing fine now. It's better for you guys to move forward. Basically saying, like, dude, don't stress out about it. Don't let this stress out you enough. It's like, dude, genuinely, this sounds like fucking best advice. By the way, for those who don't know, why did IDubbbz and his wife have to go to therapy for, like, drama? It's because a bunch of incels attacked them for having sex and saying the N-word. Or rather, saying that they don't want to say the N-word anymore. But yeah, again, that sounds like genuinely good advice, honestly. Like, dude, this is a very serious matter. You're being investigated. It's probably in your best interest to, like, calm down, take some time off, relax, whatever. Like, that sounds like good advice. Ethan and Hila were fucking mad and just started publicly posting on their Instagram and on their podcast, like, shitting on both Ian and Anissa. Ian is IDubbbz's real name, but started shitting on them because they're like literally, they even went so far as to pull the move of, we helped you out during your drama, why aren't you helping us during ours? One, this is not a transactional exchange. Just because you helped them out this one time does not mean they owe you their undying loyalty. Did you ever stop to consider that maybe Ian and Anissa don't support the things you've been doing, and maybe they have the right to express their disappointment and express their opinion towards you? You and them were talking about advice. They gave you their opinion on the matter. You didn't like it. Well, that's you're free to not take their advice if you want, and clearly you have not been taking their advice. But they don't owe you to be a yes man for everything that you believe and say. Like, what? And again, it sounds like they're your real friends because they gave you advice that you didn't want to hear and you probably needed to hear. Now, believe it or not, this sort of sentiment actually also can tie into, like, the broader Israeli-Palestine conflict at all, as well, because apparently this was actually, like, a thing that Israeli supporters have said en masse before. Like, literally, here's what happened. On October 7th, like, after October 7th, here's what happened. Like, a lot of BLM protesters, you know, due to the fact that they're left-wing and they support, like, you know, oppressed people, they expressed their support for Palestine. But then a lot of Zionists who expressed support for BLM, even stating, like, we went to BLM rallies, started shitting on BLM. And so, like, what the fuck, guys? We marched for you. Why aren't you marching for us? Insinuating that, like, BLM turned their backs on them. Like, what? Like, what? Why do you assume, like, automatic? What? I mean, they're I get, like, oppressed people on one thing. Like, I'm pretty sure BLM would have marched for, like, an anti-Semitism rally, like, you know, like, saying, like, fuck Nazis and, like, supporting Jewish people on Jewish holidays or whatever. But, like, if you're thinking they're gonna go to you and just be like, yes, we will support you oppressing the Palestinian people, you're insane. You're insane on multiple levels. The IDF literally trained the Minneapolis Police Department how to do the knee on the neck trick. Why in the everlasting fuck would you think that BLM would march to support you? But yeah, this has not been going well for H3H3. According to the latest numbers I've seen, he's just draining subs, essentially. Like, he lost 10k subs on his main, I guess this is the podcast channel, on the 13th. And lost 10k subs on the H3 main channel on the 21st. I mean, again, this could probably just be, like, the site, like, I guess they just averaged to the 10th one, I guess. The closest thing to gains that he gets are, like, the worst human beings rushing to support him. Like, I mean, they're, like, literal fucking, like, figures that just, like, Wow, that literally, in what sense is like them supporting you is a good thing? Like, dude, Keemstar now supports Ethan. It's like, and there's a reason why they're doing this. They're doing this because they want to use this as a political proxy war against the left. Which makes sense considering Ethan did the exact same thing during the anti-SJW era, carrying water for the right while pretending that he has some sort of like a left-wing vanguard. Remember, he's the guy who literally interviewed Joey Salas for doing a racist like prank to try and sow racial divides and then literally invited him on. He's the same guy who literally invited a guy who was literally going to make a sexual harassment joke to a woman because, you know, he didn't actually say the joke. He said humongous instead of the thing he was going to say where he was going to say she had humongous tits. He's the same guy who brought JonTron on after he was talking about like how white people need to be protected in the United States and was just like, yeah, let's talk and have fun. He was the guy who said, yeah, this transphobic guy who really hates trans people, we're going to invite them on. Although also in a very ironic twist, he has become the SJW that he hates so much. Doesn't accept criticism, will not accept criticism, is basically just doing like shit to try and like maintain whatever like small energy he has left. His whole strategy now is essentially pulling a Karen and trying to get the manager on literally everybody. Like, I mean, literally, Hassan, we're gonna call Twitch and like get you in trouble. Random Instagram user, we're gonna call your mommy and get you in trouble. Matt Lee, we're gonna call Rhett and Link and get you in trouble because you had Bad Banana on one time. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing, man? What are you doing? Like, literally, there's like a fucking, I use a Smiling Friends meme where it's like, literally every time I see Ethan Klein or like H3H3 trending on Twitter, it's like, every time I see that, it's just like, I think of that like Smiling Friends meme, like that of like the rotoscope guy who smokes, like, why are you fucking here, man? You're so old. Where's your wife? Go home to your family, dude. Because it's just like, dude, and you see it, like, literally, when he does, like, videos on Hassan, like, because I should mention, he has Tourette's syndrome, like, sometimes he, like, twitches, he, like, sniffs, you know, he does that, like, he has a mild form of Tourette's syndrome, but every time he brings up Hassan, his Tourette's syndrome gets way worse. It's clearly mentally tolling on him. This clearly has taken a mental toll on him, and it's just like, dude, clearly this isn't working out for you. You should just stop. You said you didn't want to talk about this anymore, so don't talk about it anymore. You clearly don't want to. And there's actually a slight chance that Ethan Klein might actually see this. Like, there's an actual chance, which would be pretty embarrassing. That puts him in the same club as Banana Banana, a guy he hates so much, because Banana Banana was one of the few people who I've done Thoughts On episodes on who have actually seen the episodes. At least as far as I know. But here's the thing, if Ethan Klein actually does watch this and actually wants to actually listen to some actual advice, debate Hassan or shut up. Like, genuinely, you need to, like, if you can't actually engage with actual people on this matter, then there's no reason for you to even bring this up and be part of the discourse. Like, you have the resources to call any of these people. Call Hassan, call Banana Banana, call Sam Cedar, any of these guys. Call Matt Lieb, call Denims, do whatever the fuck you want. Like, call these people. But if you really don't want to talk about this, it distresses you out so much, you should really reconsider this entire thing. That you really need to consider. Like, is this what you want to spend your limited time on Earth doing? Throwing away whatever credibility you have left to get into, like, petty fights with random Instagram users? Burning bridges with people that you've been friends with for years? Just because you can't acknowledge your own faults, all at the detriment of things that you probably would be better spent doing? Like, in the most genuine sense. Genuinely. What's the point? Even if he did see this, he probably wouldn't listen to me anyways. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to notify when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're some more content from me, consider supporting me on Patreon.